Everybody's
here. All right, let's go ahead and welcome everybody to the March 25th, 2021 Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission meeting. Let's start with a roll call.
All right, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, Kathleen Taylor.
Here.
Francine Donchik.
Here.
Kyle West.
Here.
Larry Chesney.
Present.
Mark Johnson.
Here.
Peter Gower.
Here.
Sarah Chavilicek.
Here.
Scott Carey.
Present.
And Shelley Reed.
Here. Thank you. Can we go ahead and have the clerk provide the call-in information for public comment?
Of course. Damian Kerwin, Regional Planning for the record. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Everyone see the screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so if you want to leave public comment or fill out, you will go to teamrpa.org and fill out what we call our digital public comment card. You'll find it right here on the home page. You just simply click right here and it will take you to the digital public comment card. And you just put in your information. Today I'll be Han Solo. Just provide your name, email. All these fields are required. And then the agenda item that you would like to speak on. And then if you're going to be joining through video or phoning in. And then in either instance, we ask that folks provide their phone number. And then you simply hit submit and you will get an email regarding the Zoom webinar links. Oh, I must have missed something. And then you simply hit submit. And it will provide you with the call-in information. In addition, it will give you the Zoom webinar link. And like I said, you also get emailed this information. And if you'd like to speak on another item, you have to go through the same process and fill it out again. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Damian. Let's go to salute the flag. Jeremy, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance while the rest of us mute?
Absolutely. I'm going to mute everyone, and then Damian's pulling up a flag. Okay. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Chesney, second.
Okay, we have a motion. I believe that was Commissioner Gower and a second by Commissioner Chesney. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Next is public comment. Do we have anybody on the line for public comment?
We've not received any at this time.
All right, let's close public comment and move on to item 5, which is approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Donchik moves to approve.
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Chesney, second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Donchik and a second by Commissioner, was that Commissioner Chesney?
Yes, ma'am.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 6, which is business of the day, starting with 6A, which is an RFQ for a natural resource plan. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Item 6A is for possible action. It's discussion and possible action regarding the Natural Resources Plan, request for qualifications. To take us through a presentation describing that is Nate Kusha.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. For the record, Nate Kusha, policy analyst. So we're going to go through everything we have thus far for the Natural Resources Plan and kind of the process and where we're at with that, including the request for qualifications. So just to start us off, as many of you know, we kind of did a complete overhaul of policies for the 2019 Regional Plan update, really to align more with our Nevada Revised Statutes requirements for regional planning. These included updating our public facilities and services, as well as our natural resources policies. So we do believe that we created a better framework for all of these topics. However, we did notice that these two areas specifically, the public infrastructure and natural resources, could be improved upon, and thus we identified these two planning efforts just to kind of bolster that. So first, we're just going to briefly touch on the Public Infrastructure Investment Plan, or PIP. So as part of the PIP, we have really been utilizing our other regulatory functions to really build a foundation. So as you guys know, Team RPA compiles a report every year that summarizes how the local jurisdictions and affected entities have implemented the regional plan over the last year. And this is now known as the Truckee Meadows Annual Report, or the TMAR. And with the 2019 regional plan, we set forth to really enhance this effort by seeking an inventory of capital improvement and other public infrastructure investment projects. So we are currently working with the staff from the local jurisdictions and affected entities to acquire this information for the previous year, as well as an indication of the next 5 years. So this, along with other longer term planning information about location, capacity, and timeframes garnered from existing facility plans, like the Regional Transportation Plan or the Regional Water Management Plan, that will all really serve to build a database and a map going forward that will be maintained and updated. So that's kind of where we're at with the PIP. We're working on that, utilizing the TMAR to kind of get started and build the foundation for that going forward. So with that, we'll move on to the Natural Resources Plan. So for the PIP, I mentioned how the data is kind of accessible and is in the process of being gathered. However, we kind of noticed for the Natural Resources Plan that data is pretty myriad, and from a complex system of entities spanning federal, state, and local levels, as well as nonprofits and even some for-profit agencies. And so while we do believe the data to support this effort is out there, it's not easily uncovered or interpreted, especially with our limited staff and kind of work demands. So given that, we have developed a request for qualifications to hire a consultant. First thing that we're kind of embarking on is the data gathering effort. So this is really to build an inventory of natural resources and their locations, which will serve as a building block to the Natural Resources Plan and the attendant map. So for this RFQ, we're looking for someone who has a wide view of agency authorities of natural resources, how they're connected, and is able to gather all of the relevant data for each entity, including things like contact information, an accounting of the types of data available from a given provider, the periodicity of data updates, so that Team RPA staff can consistently update data layers with new and current information, as well as any data restrictions, such as if they're proprietary, and then an accounting of the regulatory authority or jurisdiction of the data providing entity. So there's a lot there, but what we're hoping to really do is build an inventory of all the different natural resource data and the map, much like our kind of development constraints area overlay in that data. For that, we kind of have an overlay that we put on for any conformance review. We map it and we see what the constraints are for any given project. So we're hoping to do that with all of the different data for natural resources that we gather. We can see what is in a given location and how it's going to be affected. And so all of this, we're hoping to help our decision makers to more easily make informed decisions related to natural resources. So in addition to kind of the the data inventory that I just mentioned, we're also going to be creating narrative sections describing the needs in different natural resource topic areas. These areas are going to be identified through our work with the consultant once we bring them on, as well as the data gathering effort, different literature reviews, as well as review of existing natural resource plans in our area, such as the Washoe County Open Space and Natural Resource Management Plan. So for these topic areas, we're really looking to focus on natural resource challenges that are more specific to our region and what we face here. So some examples of that you can see here are cultural resources or sustainability and resiliency, things of that nature. So we will be forming small groups for each of these topic areas. That will consist of Team RPA staff from local jurisdictions and affected entities, any interested stakeholders, such as anyone who's provided the data for the data gathering effort, as well as a technical advisor for each topic, which we are hoping will be one of you guys. We'll have a regional planning commission member for each of these different topic areas to kind of help guide through that. So all of this, we're hoping to lead to policy implications that will guide improvements to our natural resource policies, either in advance of or during the next regional plan update, and therefore filter down to the local jurisdiction master plan policies. So that was a lot there, but really to sum it all up, we're really hoping this natural resource plan will be a resource for the region that will contain an inventory of natural resources in our region, including maps, as well as the narratives describing the needs and policy implications for all of our different natural resources here. Just as a note also, the data from the data gathering effort will go into the natural resource plan, and so it'll probably take a little bit longer to complete that. But once we get that data and have it kind of locked down and available to us, Team RPA staff will start using that immediately in our conformance reviews. So even if the whole plan itself isn't done, we can use that data as soon as it's available to us. So with that, that's kind of a high-level framework of the natural resource plan as we see it now. That's going to be further refined once we bring a consultant on and start working on it. And we will be bringing a more detailed framework back kind of for final approval for both you guys here as well as the Regional Planning Governing Board. So with that, we'll move on to the consultant acquisition process. So this is the RFQ part. So we have put together a request for qualifications, and that was in the packet. You guys hopefully looked over. So we're really looking for a consultant to help with the data gathering effort I discussed, as well as to be an overall kind of plan design advisor. So we started to put together a selection committee, which is going to include us at Team RPA, some of our staff, as well as one planner from each of the local jurisdictions. So one from City of Sparks, City of Reno, and Washoe County. We've been in discussion with the different jurisdictions, trying to set up who that will be, what planner it will be. So we're moving along there. We're going to be creating a scoring sheet for both the kind of proposals once they come in, as well as for interviews. And then of course, moving into that interview process of the consultants that apply. And ultimately, us at Team RPA will select a consultant, and then we'll bring them back to you guys to meet them, hopefully with a more detailed framework. So with that, what we're looking for tonight, we're really looking for some input on the RFQ and consultant acquisition process. If you guys have any suggestions there, or just kind of a general agreement that what we've laid it out is good. Some input on the natural resource plan framework, just kind of high level. If there's any kind of comments there, we'll take that as well. And then finally, input and kind of buy-in on you guys participating as technical advisors for the different natural resource topic areas. And then if there are any, we can discuss those tonight and bring those back to our staff and the consultants to come on. Any suggestions for kind of natural resource topic areas that you guys think we should be looking into? So with that, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to turn it back to you guys to see if you have any questions, discussion, any of the input of things here that you want to get.
Thank you, Nate. This is a project, the budget is 50,000, is that correct?
Correct. I mean, it's up to 50,000 is what we had budgeted.
It's up to, okay. And how long do you envision this project to last? I don't know if I missed it in the RFQ, but I didn't see the schedule of time.
We haven't outlined a specific time frame yet. I think we're kind of hoping to bring a consultant on and get a little bit of input, and especially once we kind of start going down this path to kind of set some hard time frames. I think right now it's kind of hard for us to set a specific time frame until we get a little bit more of an idea of our consultant and the kind of effort and time that's going to go into the data gathering effort, especially.
Yeah,
Okay,
Madam Chair, if I may.
Fair
hop in
enough.
For a sec on that.
yes,
Uh,
go ahead.
Yeah, we've done this in the past with other RFQs we've put out, and typically what we do is once we make a selection, we bring that consultant on board, and we spend anywhere from 5 to 10% of the budgeted amount to go through a robust scoping process for the entire remainder of the funds. And once we get that dialed in, then we would plan to bring that newly scoped rendition of where we're headed back to this body and to the RPGB for final approval to make sure we're on the right track. So we will have those timeframes, but this is really in service of the next plan update. So I don't think it's going to take us 3 years to get through this, but we're working on this in an attempt to really have a substantive improvement to our natural resources policies when we update in 2024.
Thank you. Fair enough. I see Commissioner Tvilicek has her hand up, so go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Reed. In terms of, because I don't have my plan here right in front of me. When we're talking about natural resources, the natural resource plan, we're also looking at those natural cultural resources as well, correct? Okay.
Correct. Yeah, we're assuming cultural resources will be part of this plan. We do have a cultural resources policy in the current regional plan, but it's basically just saying that they need to be acknowledged. So hoping to bolster a little bit and delve a little deeper into that topic.
And I just to go on the record, I really applaud the planning staff for including commissioners as part of this scoping. So thank you so much for that.
Of course.
Do we have any other questions from the commission? I don't see any. I did
Looks
have
like Commissioner
one.
Carey might have a question, Chair.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Oh, there I see your hand raised. Go ahead, Commissioner Carey. I apologize for missing that.
No problem. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question, if I may. I noticed last week that Governor Sisolak issued a white paper kind of outlining projections for the impacts of climate change throughout Nevada. I was curious how the natural resources plan would address or look at climate change.
I mean, I think it's at this point hard to say what exactly that will be. I think we're looking for some advisement from a consultant and things, but I think part of it will be to review what's already out there. We'll obviously look at that white paper now that you brought that up, and that'll be part of it. But doing the lit reviews and see what other areas have done and what's been currently done, and then hopefully one of you guys will be maybe on that topic area and can help guide us through that too with suggestions you may have. How to go about that.
Thank you for that explanation. I would just add, I think that's an important thing to incorporate into this scope of work or the RFQ here. And I think it could be a good topic area. I think maybe might fit in the sustainability topic or narrative. I'm not sure, but I know there's been, particularly at the federal level and now at the state level, there's a lot of great research that's been done. The state did issue the climate strategy in December. There's a lot of good policy recommendations that I think could be applied in our region in terms of land use and transportation, and that tie-in that could hopefully help the region move forward. So I would add in that I think climate change would be a good area to highlight. And I would just kind of throw out there, I agree with my colleague from Washoe County that I think it's great to involve each one of us as commissioners in the topic areas and working on the narrative. And I'm very happy as well to see that there will be a cultural resources component, because I think there's some federal laws and state laws that could really be helpful with our land use planning efforts in the region. And I would I'd like to take a stab at maybe leading that topic area, and would be certainly willing to be involved as much as possible.
Great. We will note that for sure.
All right, thank you. Does any of the commissioners have questions?
Chair Reed? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Peter, go ahead. Okay, so in terms of, is planning staff planning to reach out to each one of the commissioners to see where their interest area is, or where they, okay, I see lots of
Yep.
nodding.
I think once we get a little more scoped on maybe what those topic areas will be, especially, then we can reach out and get input for you guys where you'd like to kind of be involved.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Gower, did you have a question?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to echo my other commissioners and appreciate the Commissioner Carey brought up the climate change topic. And I think that's maybe one that just looking at the objectives and goals component of the RFQ and the inventory of natural resources could potentially be clarified, because when I read that, I think of, our typical, development constraints topics, air, water, soils, wildlife, things like that. But, the data that might be available relative to climate change certainly transcends our region geographically. So it may be available from providers outside of our typical partners like the county and, potentially even beyond the state. So I don't know if that's worth clarifying in the RFP, just to make sure that the scope is clear for someone who might be bidding on it.
Okay. We will look
Appreciate
at
that feedback. And that, if I may, sorry, Jeremy Smith for the record. That's exactly why we wanted to bring this to you guys' attention before we took you to the RPGB, so that we could hear your advice and make those tweaks before we get it finally adopted and published. So thank you.
Yeah, fantastic.
Right.
No, it's exciting.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Question for Jeremy. I think when I look at this, when I see the presentation and when I hear the comments from my fellow commissioners, this is it's a little bit challenging in my mind to kind of wrap my arms around just exactly how far reaching this can be, which I think is a good thing. But it brings me back to maybe a concrete issue where I actually have a concern about the budget that's set for it. To me, and I'm not sure where the number came from, but just looking at the scope and comparing it to maybe the scope of work to the budget, I guess I have some concerns that the budget's not enough to justify the scope of work that we're going to be asking for a consultant. And especially, in the sense that we are still looking at defining what the scope will be, getting input, as you say, during that first 5 to 10% of the work. It seems, in something like this where it's maybe as loose and maybe not as defined as possible, I guess I would question whether there's a need to establish an actual break point where you're identifying what the scope is going to be, and then not necessarily negotiating the overall contract at the beginning, but maybe working through that a little bit after the first phase. I'm just looking at that number and comparing it to the scope. I'm sensing a potential for maybe some concern about how much time is going to be involved, and how much effort is going to be there, and whether that's commensurate with the fee that's there. So I just raised that as a question. I don't know where the number came from, but that's certainly something that it has made. I feel even more concerned about it hearing some of the suggestions from commissioners and things that I wasn't even really paying attention to.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. That's a really good point. And just a little history on the 50,000. It is a bit of a number that's to some degree pulled out of a hat in order to get us sort of started. But we have on the order of $130,000 that we acquired as part of the regional plan implementation funds from the 3 jurisdictions. There was a 3-year period when we were doing the update that we acquired those funds. We used roughly almost 2 years of the funds to actually accomplish the update. And we remained, about 115,000 plus some change from a previous year to around 130. And so we do have a little bit more money available if it were to have, scope creep, or if we feel like this is not going to be enough to get us there. And I think that's going to very much depend on who's selected and exactly what responsibilities that we dole out. I think our anticipation is that we're going to do a lot of this work ourselves, and we're not going to be putting it on the consultant, but we really are looking for help to go out there and cast a wide net and gather all that data. But in terms of the writing, I think what we learned during the plan update process was that relying on a consultant to write our plan, it didn't really work for us. And so I think we want to be the ones that write the plan with their advisement. But I really appreciate what you're saying. And I think things are expensive and it might not be enough. And there is a little wiggle room in there. We don't want to use too much of that 130,000 because there's also contemplation of using those monies for the public infrastructure investment planning effort if we need to hire help for that. So those are the two things we want to spend those money on. They're related to the update in 2024 that came directly from the update funds. And, I've spoken with the city managers and county managers to that end. If you never know, we might get into this natural resources project thing and understand that we need more money. And there may need to be an ask to our body in the RPGB for that, leeway to go and look to get more funds to support it. So we'll be going in there with eyes open, and greatly appreciate your comments.
Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate that. I guess maybe then as a follow-up to that, which was something that I saw kind of in the discussion, but maybe a little bit more, and I'm not actually sure where to put it, but you make a good point that if the intent is to have TMRPA staff do the actual writing, that perhaps that could be clarified a little bit more in the scope or in terms of maybe the deliverable that you're looking for. Because I do think, just thinking about putting a report or something like that together, the time always seems to be in the meetings and the document preparation. Those are where everything seems to boil up. So if you can maybe clarify some of that within the language of this so that there's an expectation set, that might be helpful. So
you got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Discussion? I believe we need to make a motion on this. I'll accept a motion to approve this. Don't all speak at once. Commissioner West.
Yes, I move that we move forward in approving the RFP for this natural resource plan.
We have a motion. Do I have a
Commissioner Chesney will second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner West and a second by Commissioner Chesney. Any further discussion? All right. Can we go ahead and have a roll call vote?
Yes, of course. And I just want to also clarify there was no public comment for that item either.
Oh, I didn't see that was a public comment item. Did I miss that?
Oh, no worries. I think if it's for possible action, I think it is open for public comment.
Oh, it was? Okay.
But there was none, so you're all good.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
No worries. Just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
So Kathleen Taylor?
Yes.
Francine Donchik?
Yes.
Kyle West?
Yes.
Larry Chesney?
Yes.
Mark Johnson?
Yes.
Peter Gower?
Yes.
Sarah Chavilicek?
Yes.
Scott Carey?
Yes.
And Shelley Reed?
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 6B, which is RPC training segment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Item 6B is for possible action, the RPC training segment regional review process. And again, we have the Nate Kusha Show.
All right. Good evening again, commissioners. For the record, Nate Kusha with Regional Planning. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet, but we wanted to give you guys a little bit of overview of kind of our regional review process for the different items that we see and analyze at Team RPA. So with that, for master plan amendments and projects of regional significance, so those processes and the review for them are the same. So we're going to walk through just kind of a basic kind of timeline and where things go from start to finish at the regional level. So starting with a pre-application meeting, I'm sure you guys know about these. These are meetings typically set up between an applicant and the local governing body before an application is submitted, just to make sure everything goes smoothly through the process. So as part of Team RPA's new practice of kind of getting in early on the review process, we may be included in these meetings now, which previously not so much the case. But if regional input is sought for these meetings, we have been doing those now. We've been to a couple of them, so that's good. Moving on, we then have the development review memos, which are sent out by each of the local jurisdictions on a regular basis, detailing kind of the different applications that have been submitted. And us at Team RPA review those proposals, and we know any that'll trigger a review process, which then triggers us to do a initial review memo. So this is a new thing that we do at regional planning per regional plan policy RC5. And so any proposal that's going through the local jurisdiction level, we now will do an initial review memo before it goes to that local governing or that local jurisdiction's planning commission, just to give regionals input on what it looks like from our perspective, and if there are any potential conformance issues at the regional level, any data and information relevant to it, things of that nature. So then following that, we then have the local jurisdiction planning commission. So all of it is the same for that. So City of Reno, City Sparks, and Washoe County all go to their local planning commission, which is you guys at those respective bodies. And then for the City of Reno and Washoe County, it then goes to the City of Reno Council and the Washoe County Board of Commissioners. Sparks is a little bit different, and I'll touch on that later. If it is approved there, then it finally comes to us at Team RPA. We do our analysis. It then goes to you guys as a planning commission. And for the City of Reno and Washoe County, that is the end of the regional review process, as long as everything goes smoothly. For the City of Sparks, they do it a little bit differently. So they do their local planning commission at the same time, but they bring it back to their council after it's been through the entire regional process. So it ends at Sparks Council for them. A little bit different. So with that, our other process that is a little bit different is the regional plan amendment process. So typically, regional plan amendments are coupled with either a master plan amendment or a project of regional significance, and therefore follow a similar review process to that respect. But the difference is that regional plan amendments need to be sponsored. So we're going to go through the process from sponsorship forward. So with sponsorship, there's a few different ways that can happen. Typically, a applicant will bring the regional plan amendment to the either Reno City Council or City of Sparks Council or the Washoe County Board for sponsorship, and then it'll come to us. The other way it can happen is the private property owner request. So they can actually submit straight to regional planning, and it'll go to you guys and to the board to see if it would then be sponsored by either the Regional Planning Commission or the Regional Planning Governing Board. So they request a sponsorship. There's a fee associated with that. In addition, there's some other regional plan amendments, say a text amendment to our regional plan that may just be sponsored by you guys at the Planning Commission or the Regional Governing Board. So following that, we do our analysis again, and then it comes to you guys for a recommendation. And then the difference with regional plan amendment is it does go to the governing board as a final stop. So in this one, you guys make a recommendation of approval or denial, and then the governing board makes the final decision there. So that's all if everything goes smoothly. There are, of course, appeals and things of that nature, but those get pretty kind of weird, and they vary a lot. So at a different training later on, we'll get into the appeals and appeal processes for each of the different kind of regional reviews. So with that, I'll open up if there's any questions, any clarifications you guys want. And we do have all of this information more detailed and outlined that we'd really like you guys to go look at and review. That's up on the Regional Planning Commission training website that was sent out to you guys. And we'll make sure to send that out again either tonight or tomorrow, so you guys have that link to get to that. So with that, any questions, clarifications, comments?
Thank you, Nate. Do any of the commissioners have questions? I see Commissioner Carey has his hand raised, so go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nate, would it be possible to provide this PowerPoint on the meeting page website and send that out to the commission as well too? I saw on the meeting page there was another handout that kind of outlined the process, but I think this PowerPoint was really helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll go ahead and put this the PowerPoint up there as well.
Any other questions or comments? Right. This item doesn't require any action.
Does not.
I didn't think so. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item number 7, which is reports, starting with the director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. I have a few things to update you on. Well, the first we'll just build off what Nate was just showing you, and that's the training regiment. We appreciate that probably many of you already know the stuff we just told you, but maybe for a few of you that was a new bit and helpful. We know that training is a requirement of state law that we need to make sure everyone's trained up, and to the degree that folks here on this commission have been here for years or less, you know, there's different levels of need, but we're just kind of trying to make sure we're touching on that almost every meeting. Hopefully we have something, you know, useful to say that will help you. And actually we're trying to bring a training update to the Regional Planning Governing Board on their April 8th meeting. They actually control the content or approving the content in the training materials. And what we've noticed is that it hasn't been brought to them in a long time. A lot of the training materials are old and outdated. There's this chunk of the training materials that have to be met, like reading the ordinances, the state law pieces, that kind of thing. But then in terms of once you get through that, we want it to be more of kind of an elective process where we have some criteria and we have a little bit more flexibility to, you know, for example, read a book that's related to regional planning, or maybe you attend a conference that's related, and we can make that case and have that apply. So we're going to try and run that up the flagpole at April 8th, and hopefully then be able to update and get a little bit newer and more flexible training materials available for you. Additionally, we are taking the regulations on procedure, updates to the regulations on procedure to the Regional Planning Governing Board. There really isn't significant substantive changes that we're proposing. The main change is that with the adoption of the regional plan in 2019, the concept of a future service area went away. And our regulations on procedure still allow a private property owner to, you know, try to make a boundary change to the FSA that doesn't exist. But at the same time, we added in regional land designations or tiers. And so we've basically done a process where we've swapped those out. So there is a way for a private property owner to ask for a change to a regional land designation. And there's a fee associated with that. And that's sort of, you know, just building on what we've already had for years. We always want to first try to convince an applicant to work with the local jurisdiction and bring it that way. That's a better approach, but you know, we do want to make sure that there is a path for landowners to move forward with the process, irrespective of that. So that's coming forward, and if you're interested in that, let me know and I can show you what we're planning to do. Another thing that we're going to be updating or that we're engaged in is legislative tracking. We, under the approval of the Regional Planning Governing Board and the legislative subcommittee that was formed from the governing board to look at bill tracking, we've hired Tom Clark from Tom Clark Solutions. He's our lobbyist, and he's been tracking bills. And we do have a couple of bills that are, several really, that are on our radar. At this time, we don't have anything formal to sort of present or comment on or do a fiscal note or any of that stuff, but we're watching it really closely. And if that need arises, we're going to do that. And of course, if you have any input on that front, we're always happy to hear that. Good on that one, I think. What else we got? The COVID risk meter, that was a thing we've done. It's been working really well. So well that, in fact, given the governor's sort of directionality in terms of giving local control back to the health district, for instance, or, back to the counties, that the COVID risk meter has been identified as potentially being one of the mechanisms the health district will use to track and then potentially apply interventions. So the governor is asking that, in that the health district tracks cases and test positivity and hospitalization, and that we have all of that in there already. So happily they're going to use that. Let's see, one more thing. Two more things. So today I did a talk with Truckee Meadows Tomorrow. We filmed a talk that's going to actually be available Wednesday, March 31st at 12 noon. And I can send that information out in an email to all of you after this, but you can watch me hopefully not put my foot in my mouth. So it's kind of a neat discussion about innovative ideas that connect our people and places to our potential here in the Truckee Meadows. It was really a lot about growth and development and what we can expect and what are our challenges, that sort of thing. And it was a fascinating panel. So maybe if you get a chance, you can watch that. And finally, I wanted to address the Ormat geothermal project, which I'm sure has been on your mind and continues to be postponed in terms of being heard by this body. Really, it's in an effort to support the BLM and the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe in their efforts to find a solution that works for them in terms of monitoring really the impacts, the potential impacts of the geothermal expansion up there in the San Emilio. And so we anticipate that we'll be bringing that back to the May meeting. And then with, hopefully by then that will be worked out and the BLM will have issued a finding on their NEPA analysis, environmental analysis, and then we'll have that in hand. But I will say that the letter we received and kind of thinking about natural resources and the analysis aspect really did kick us into gear to get our natural resources RFQ out there. And so it was a welcome kind of a thing that ended up happening to get us moving on that. And I'm hopeful that, by gathering all of this data, much like Nate referred to the DCA, we can do an independent analysis at any time, right? So right now we're really kind of beholden to some of the entities and agencies that do natural resource analyses. We're limited staff, we can't necessarily reinvent the wheel on these things, but having that data set will at the very least allow us to flag, maybe in our initial review memo, for example, where we see there could be potential impacts to natural resources and get it on the radar. So thank you, I guess, to everyone involved in that for kicking us in the pants. Okay, with that, I'm done. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I see Commissioner Chivilicek has her hand up. Did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair Reed. Jeremy, do you have specific bills that this Tom Clark is tracking bill numbers that you could send to us for our review?
Yes, absolutely do. Right now, they're available on our meetings page if you go to the legislative subcommittee meetings area. And since we're having a legislative subcommittee meeting next Thursday at 10, that is a public meeting, so you could attend that as well. But also, I think by Wednesday, we should have an updated tracking list on our website. And when I put that up there, I'm happy to give you guys a heads up email that it's there.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Are there any member reports? Seeing none. Our next meeting is April 22nd. Can we get legal counsel's report?
Sorry, Madam Chair, a little computer glitch there. Jessica Prenti for the record, and I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item 8, a request for future agenda items. Any requests? Seeing none, let's open it up for public comment. Do we have anybody waiting on the line to provide public comment?
We have no public comment.
Okay, so let's close public comment. Is there any written correspondence?
There is none.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week and weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks all.